Hello, church. So here is our devotional for Friday, June 13th. Friday the 13th. Um, shouldn't have gone there. Yeah. So we're stepping into Psalm 79. We're actually going to do it in two parts, not because it's a particularly long psalm, but there was some really good stuff in James Mays, and I didn't want to have to do all of it in one devotional. So we'll split it up into two parts and tackle that in just a minute after you hear from the New Revised Standard Version. Psalm 79, a psalm of Asaph. O God, the nations have come into your inheritance. They have defiled your holy temple. They have laid Jerusalem in ruins. They have given the bodies of your servants to the birds of the air for food, the flesh of your faithful to the wild animals of the earth. They have poured out their blood like water all around Jerusalem, and there was no one to bury them. We have become a taunt to our neighbors, mocked and derided by those around us. How long, O Lord, will you be angry forever? Will your jealous wrath burn like fire? Pour out your anger on the nations that do not know you, and on the kingdoms that do not call on your name, for they have devoured Jacob and laid waste his habitation. So, a couple of pieces from James Mays. Psalm 79 is a prayer of the people of the Lord in the time of grievous trouble. It is quite similar to Psalm 74, and the comment on that psalm should be consulted. On the type of the corporate prayers for help, see the introduction. Sorry about that. The psalm is largely composed of lamenting descriptions of trouble and petitions for help. It begins with the sequence of laments following the they, we, and then you pattern. The sequence describes how the nations have dishonored God and afflicted the people of God, the humiliation of the people of God, and the enduring anger of God towards his people. The laments are followed by a sequence of corresponding petitions, supported by reasons why the petition should be answered. The petitions plead with God to turn his anger from his people to the nations, to deal with the iniquity of his people in compassion, and to save his people in an act of forgiveness. The cry, why should the nations say, where is their God, is the climax and theological theme of the psalm. The scope of the disaster, sketched in verses 1 to 4, 7, and 11, points to the fall of Jerusalem to the Babylonians in 587. The Holy Temple has been defiled by the intrusion and uses of foreigners. Jerusalem is in ruins. The population has been slaughtered, its land devastated. The remaining population lives in weakness and shame in the midst of its neighbors. The psalm is composed of an unusually high incidence of language conventional in descriptions of disaster, so it is impossible to be certain. But the Babylonian destruction of Jerusalem fits the picture best of the disasters known from Old Testament times. There might have been, and there would be, other such occasions. This prayer was probably used first in ceremonies of grief and lament and the long years of the 6th century. It is a liturgy for a time of the wrath of God. And here's some Eugene Peterson from The Message for you. An Asaph psalm. God, barbarians have broken into your home, violated your holy temple, left Jerusalem a pile of rubble. They've served up the corpses of your servants as carrion food for birds of prey. Threw the bones of your holy people out to the wild animals to gnaw on. They dumped out their blood like buckets of water. All around Jerusalem, their bodies were left to rot unburied. We're nothing but a joke to our neighbors, graffiti scrawled on the city walls. How long do we have to put up with this, God? Do you have it in for us for good? Will your smoldering rage never cool down? If you're going to be angry with the pagans who care nothing about you, or your rival kingdoms who ignore you. They're the ones who ruined Jacob, who wrecked and looted the place where he lived. Cheery. Yeah, we've talked about the destruction of the temple before as this really critical instance within the history of Israel. So if you haven't heard it for a while, the way it's working out in the Old Testament, so after the time of David, the kingdom is divided into two territories. So there's a northern and a southern. The southern continues to be faithful to the Davidic line. The northern kingdom continues to uplift the Mosaic law. So really emphasizing the Ten Commandments, the establishment of God's house at Shiloh, which we heard about actually in our previous psalm. So the northern kingdom falls to the Assyrians. For the southern kingdom and a lot of those prophets within that time, they're basically having the people look at what has happened because people were not faithful to God's commandments and don't think it's not going to happen here. And then with the Babylonian capture and exile, we see that dynamic happening. This plays out significantly in the prophet Jeremiah, which was part of my focus for the previous sabbatical, and we talked about some. So that's it for today. We'll be back with you on Saturday with our chicken barbecue and the conclusion of Psalm 79. Have a good one.